afternoon, honorable judges, friends, and acquaintances. My name is Micah Branch, and I was raised in the small, mostly French community of Notre Dame, just past Irishtown, and the old Mountain View Elementary School. Like many of my peers, the students and children around me, the house that I called home was relatively isolated, only accessible through a dirt road or a good 30 minutes of hiking. I was not a lonely child, exactly. Of course, I do have a brother, but living so far away from any other buildings or signs of life meant that there wasn't always company my age. Those summer days were long and tedious. It was back then, on those days, that I found other company to keep. I found another place where I would always be welcome, no matter the day or the time or my mood. It was then that I found books, and through those, stories. Of course, I now know many stories. I have shelves full of books, have thousands more in my mind. But way back then, as a child, each and every story I read was this fantastical new world, all at once vast, mystical, and intriguing. Pages and pages of lore to explore, a world to hide in. I was welcomed without hesitation into these worlds. Here, I could quest alongside my favorite characters, the heroes and demigods, brave and not yet broken. I learned to love them, the children who faced incredible odds, unimaginable foes, and yet they still somehow win, somehow live and laugh and love, and oh, it seemed so real, so human. Well, for the most part, there was this phase with anthropomorphic cats. I'm over it now. These characters welcomed me with open arms into their worlds. Worlds of magic and monsters, legends and lore. Anything could happen in these worlds. Maybe, just maybe, anything could happen in mine. But then, of course, like any good story, my world turned upside down. We moved. My home, this hidden place of trees and magic, was torn away from me. It was no longer mine. A new city, new faces, a new street. The only constant in these turbulent times were my books. I read ever more as we moved into an old house in the city, placed my books on temporary shelves. The house we moved into was old, and still is, old enough to have iron keyholes and dried garlic hanging from the woodshed. The woman who lived here before us was a gardener. These were the remnants of her story, not mine. Where do you go from there? How could I begin to build a life in this empty house, in this mausoleum to another time? The answer, I suppose, is with small steps. We started with school, middle school, grade 5. Slowly, I had to learn to reach out just a bit more to this new cast of characters, to connect and have small conversations. There were moments of laughter and plenty of fights, then secrets and inside jokes, and some very memorable teachers, believe me. The house we moved into was old, and like I said, it still is. But it's not a place I don't think I'll ever forget. This new school had a wonderful library as well. It was a small room, painted white. All the books on the south side bleached pale from years of afternoon sun. The librarian was a special woman. She let me help out, shelve books, and gave me first pick of all the discarded ones, the books too broken to use anymore. She gave me a new home for a while. Then I could walk back to the house. And if I admired the sun on all that warm old brown wood, who needs to know? An old house does come with its perks. I still live there today. In fact, I still have that same room, only fuller, filled with even more stories, both on paper and invisible. I have a baby houseplant, a small vine that someday will climb all over the bookshelves, if I let it. The same way it did in an old house far from the road, only accessible through a dirt road or a good 30 minutes of hiking. I go to a new school now, a high school, a school where I have friends both new and old, friends both beautiful and broken, and maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe in a few years, these days will be nothing but a memory. but they will still be something I remember fondly. Almost like a small houseplant, my life began by the earth, but now it is growing and reaching, and finally, I am living for more than my books. I am creating my own. Thank you very much.
Question for 1 minute impromptu speech. Question: what measures should be taken to address the low literacy rates in New Brunswick?
So, what measures should be taken to address the low literacy rates that we have in New Brunswick right now? I know for sure, being a student in a normal high school in New Brunswick, Moncton, I have a lot of friends who more or less aren't very interested in literature. Of course, that's like a shot to the heart for me, but they just aren't interested. And I think there should be measures to be taken to make it more entertaining. So many people see literacy as read the comprehension, answer the questions, find the questions, and write down what you read. And there's so much more to literacy than that. We live in a community close to the ocean with many diverse people. We have so many stories to tell. And through literacy and storytelling in general, we can do that. We can connect to other people. And it should be made realized at a young age. As soon as people realize that young kids have stories to tell too, and that it can be fun, then we can work together to create a community. Thank you very much.